is this man? This man right here, Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Who is he? And why is it that he was commissioned by Lyndon B. Johnson to write one of the most controversial social science reports on the poverty situation for Black America, or as we say or address ourselves, Melanated Aborigine America, but in this case we're going to stick to Black America. Negroes is the term that they were really using. This is all dealing with the 60s, so this is coming out of 1965. But yes, this man right here wrote one of the most controversial reports on social science as far as the Negro problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, the show is about to start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
You must learn.
Yeah, it was considered a Negro problem, like really major. And before I really jump all the way into this, what troubles me is, it seems as though, well, it doesn't seem as though, because it really is true. Ever since going all the way back to, let's say, 1610, around 1607, 1610, when these settlers first got here, I'm talking about John Roth and his crew. You know John Roth, the dude that married Pocahontas, yeah, and the whole tragic story with what they did to Pocahontas. You know how they took over England and threw her overboard. But there was so much of stuff like that going on back in those days. You know, they were marrying into the families of these natives. You know, our ancestors, much of them, they were marrying into these families and then poisoning. You could see a lot of that in that movie that just came out not too long ago. Killers of the Blue Moon. I believe that's the name of it, with Robert De Niro. Yeah, you can see a lot of that about the Osage people. But a lot of that was going on. You know, they would marry into these families, into these tribes, these nations, and then they would, you know, poison or just straight out murder the spouse. 9 times out of 10, it was a woman. She would be murdered, and they would make sure that they made children with her before they did this, so that this way they could write themselves into the whole Indian family, or Indian bloodline, should I say, and get a lot of that money and land that was being given away and stolen and then given away, okay, to all these Eurasians, Europeans, right? Because we should all know by now that, you know, when they came here, they didn't discover us. You know, their ship didn't crash into, or our landmass didn't really crash into their vessel. Their vessel, which was Plymouth Rock, was Plymouth, crashed into our landmass, you know. But of course they tell the story the other way around in order to fit their agenda, you know, in order to validate their reason for taking the land and seizing the people, right? Bunch of crap. We should all know this by now. I mean, come on, man. You know, we got to know this stuff. This is an important part of our history. As we know, when we say history, when it concerns us, it's more lines of a mystery, okay? Because history is actually his story, okay? The history that they tell, it's all lies when it comes to our people and our lineage and our story, which is a mystery, right? But anyway, let's get into this right here, because I don't want to be too long with this part, okay? It's getting kind of late, but I do want to do this. So let's get into this. So Daniel Patrick Moynihan, what paper is it that he wrote? So let's look over here for a minute and let's read on a little bit more about who this man actually was. So, who was the man behind the Negro Family Report? That is the name of the report, okay? And this I snatched off of Wikipedia, as you can see right here, okay? This article is about the U.S. Senator from New York for the U.S. Representative from Illinois. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, March 16, 1927 to March 26, 2003, was an American politician and diplomat, a member of the Democratic Party. Like that's really, you know, I'm supposed to give some points. A 1-up. Nah. He represented New York in the United States Senate, okay, from 1977 until 2001, after serving as an advisor to President Richard, I'm not a crook, I'm not a schmuck, I'm not a schmuck, Nixon, okay, and as the United States ambassador to India and to the United Nations. So we see that he had a pretty extensive history or background in Senate, okay, in White House, right? Born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. How interesting. He was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I started off talking about the land grab and you know what they did to our ancestors, and then he happens to be born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where they sent our ancestors along the Trail of Tears, okay, when they sent us out west, right? Tulsa, Oklahoma is one of the places where we went and we built up and built into what was known as a metropolis, Black Wall Street, okay? Moynihan moved at a young age to New York City. Following a stint in the Navy, he earned a PhD in history from Tufts University. He worked on the staff of New York Governor W. Abriel Harriman before joining President John F. Kennedy administration in 1961. He served as an assistant secretary of labor under President Kennedy and President Lyndon B. Johnson. Yeah. Devoting much of his time to the war on poverty, in 1965 he published a controversial Moynihan Report on Black Poverty. So what gave this man, and why was this man considered such an authority figure on Black people? You know, the welfare of, you know, the well-being of Black people, okay, Negroes, if you will, okay, because as we get ready to get into, you're going to see that in this report, he really made a lot of bold statements that really did affect the future outcome for Black people here in this so-called great nation, okay? So what made this man such an authority figure on, you know, the war on poverty as it related to the Negro family, right? Black poverty. Moynihan left Johnson administration in 1965 and became a professor at Harvard University. Okay, so yeah, what made him such an authority figure? Why was he selected to write this what's known as one of the most controversial reports on the Negro, right? Because if we look right here, this one, if we look right here, it says Moynihan was neither a socialist, nor a demographer. I'm sorry, sociologist. I knew I was saying that word but wrong. I had to kind of like rewire my brain. Moynihan was neither a sociologist nor a demographer. He started his research on January 1st, 1965. Now hold up, pause right there. So he wasn't a sociologist and he wasn't a demographer. You know, someone that pretty much studies the behavior patterns and idiosyncrasies of people living in certain areas of the world, especially those living in urban areas, predominantly us black and brown folks. Okay, that's mostly what demographers study, or mostly who they study, should I say. Okay, so he wasn't a sociologist nor a demographer, and he started his research on January 1st, 1965. Now 1965 is the same year that this paper came out. So how you start in the same year that you write the paper, in the same year that the paper is going to that the report is going to come out? You just started? This is what I'm saying. Like, what made him such an authoritative on this particular subject? Why? Because that was his area of expertise. Okay, let's go back here for a second. What does it say right here? Devoted much of his time to the war on poverty. Okay, and so that was his area of expertise, and that's what, you know, that's what merited him to be an authoritative on this particular subject. And to this date, because this is 1965, it is 2024. So to this date, 100 years later, a century later, this report still rings bells and is still referenced. But it says right here, he was neither a sociologist nor a demographer. He didn't start his research until the year that the report came out. Okay, consulting scholars and civil rights activists. He also dwelled into major books concerned with African American history and contemporary race relations. Ooh, I wonder what books did he read? Who were the authors? Okay, because I'm sure he probably didn't read anything by Woodrow Wilson, you know, like The Miseducation of the Negro. Okay, I'm sure he didn't read the ISIS papers. Okay, I'm sure he didn't read what's my book over here? What's the name of it? I can't even find it right here. The Destruction of Black Civilization. I'm sure he didn't read stuff like that to come to his conclusion. Okay? Because had he read things like that, then his report wouldn't have said half the stuff that y'all getting ready to find out. In case you didn't know about this report, you getting ready to find out some of the stuff right now. Okay, so anyway, Contemporary Race Relations. These works by W.E.B. Du Bois, E. Franklin Frazier, Gunnar Mardo. Okay, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Excuse me for that. It's a misnomer. Kenneth Clark and others. emphasized that a long history of white racism had savaged African American life. Yeah. Within the amazingly short span of 3 months, he completed a report titled "The Negro Family." Wow, just 3 whole months. Wow, man, you was something else, huh, man? You was on top of things. 3 whole months. That's all it took for him to just take the entire situation and problems of the Negro and cram it all into this, what does it say, 78 page report that stirred up all this controversy, but it only took him 3 months to write it. So, yo, let's check this out. Matter of fact, let's get on over here. Let me jump over here. Let's just go ahead and dive right into this right now, okay? Let's stop playing around. Let's get into this, okay? Let me come up here to the top. Let's go to the tippy top. Here we go. Now, this right here, I have this in my PDF. So I will leave a link for this PDF. I have this in my folders. This is an actual copy from the policy planning department, okay, for the labor department. This is an actual copy, and if you would like a copy of this, because this is the full thing, I mean, surely you can go somewhere here on the internet and look it up, but I will leave the link for anyone. I will leave the link from the original place where I got it from. I will leave it downstairs in the description for any one of you to feel free to go on over there. Instead of having to search it, just go downstairs in my description and snap and click on that link and download it, okay? So the Negro Family, the case for national action. Y'all see that? Whoo, it starts off heavy. The case for national action. This requires national action. What requires national action? National action. Who requires national action? The Negro family. So, I'm so silly. Y'all know I got to throw a little humor in here, but yeah, check it out. Look right here. See the date? March 1965. Office of Policy Planning and Research, United States Department of Labor. Now, this here Department of Labor, Office of Policy Planning and Research, they sure do a lot of planning about affairs that have nothing to do with labor. At least not according to my definition of labor. You understand what I'm saying? I always thought labor had to do with, working. But yeah, they do a lot of policy planning over here. Huh? And much of it has to do with the status of USM. Okay? Melanated Aborigines. Okay? But let's keep on going. Here we go. Now, 200 years ago, in 1765, 9 assembled colonies first joined together to demand freedom from arbitrary power. What was the arbitrary power that these colonies were trying to break free from? Well, that would be King George and them. Because as I've told you guys in prior videos, most of the people that came here dealing with the first settlers, that whole John Rolfe and his crew, and the people that came before him, because people came before him, and this is why he even says in his diary, his memoirs, that when they came, they found the people that came before them in really a bad way. They were in a bad way. I mean, they didn't know the land. they really didn't know much of anything. I mean, you gotta understand that a lot of these people that came over here escaping the tyranny of the tyranny of the king. You know, that whole aristocrat. You understand? Aristocracy. You understand what I'm saying? They were really trying to escape them, and so much of them were actually inmates, criminals. Okay, like a release program. When you know what a release program from jail, what they call it, a work release program, where some cellmates get to leave out every day to go to work, and then when they're finished work, they have to report back to the jailhouse, and they're locked back up, you know, because they are still serving their time. But so yeah, it was kind of like that. A lot of those people that came over here to build America up and get America ready, okay, they were in one of those, I guess you could say, something like a release program. You know, they were let out of jail with the notion or understanding that they would come here, they would till this land, they would get this land ready for conquest. And then they were promised that when they came here, they would be king, if you will. They would be the rulers. No one would be ruling over them. They would be ruling over the inhabitants of this land, right? Which basically shows that they knew people were here. They knew people were here. You understand what I'm saying? And they sent some of the worst criminals that they had. You know, we talking about England, Britain, Europe. You know what I'm saying? They sent some of the worst criminals that they had to come here to do their dirty work. You understand what I'm saying? Because they knew that, you know, shit, this is what they love to do. This is going to be recreation for them. You know what I mean? Like recreation with a W-R-E-C-K. Okay? Yeah, that type of recreation. But, so they were escaping that arbitrary power. You know, the king and them. You know, remember I made the little joke about how a lot of them was like, man, we tired of giving all our money to these people. Man, I ain't got, but all I got is $35. I got to send him $5. I'm only have $30. Or you know, shit, $5 is meager. Make it more like half. Or better yet, make it more like, in some cases, all. Okay, and so yeah, these people were livid about that. They were really, you know, they were tired. They were livid about that. They were like, man, tired of giving them all my money. You know what I'm saying? And you know, before you know it, we got the Revolutionary War going on, and that's really what the Revolutionary War was about. You know what I'm saying? And they were, you know, always writing home and complaining. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you know, you told us we were going to come over here and we were going to be, you know what I'm saying, the rulers, you know, the arbiters, and instead we over here and we got to share the land with these people, because these people was already here now. Everybody didn't know that there was going to be people already there. They thought that they were coming to unfounded new territories, many of them, you know, the unsuspectings. You understand what I'm saying? But the ones that were in charge, much of them they knew, you know. So once they got here and they started, you know, clearing the land and building their homes and, you know, settling in, yeah, they became a little, you know, how you want to call it, they became like uneasy and eager to, you know, get away from that whole life over there. You know, so this is what they mean when they say they demanded freedom from arbitrary power. For the first century, we struggled to hold together the first continental union of democracy in the history of man. 100 years ago in 1865, Following a terrible test of blood and fire, the Compact of Union was finally sealed. So now, what took place in 1865 that could have sealed the deal? We have Emancipation Proclamation going on. Okay, which, in case you brothers and sisters, y'all still ain't get that memo, y'all still don't know, but Emancipation Proclamation did not free you. It did not free you. Let me tell it to you one more time. It did not free you, okay? It did not free you, okay? So, we had Emancipation Proclamation going on. You had the ending of the Civil War. So naturally, this is what is meant by blood and fire. That was the Civil War they're referring to. So the Civil War is basically what they're referring to right there. You know, they saw the Civil War as at the time they saw the Civil War as obviously being the end to their problem. What problem? The Negro problem. For a second century, we labored to establish a unity of purpose and interest among the many groups which make up the American community. Among the many groups which make up the American community. Trust and believe, you and I were not included in any of these groups that make up the American community. How could we have been? They were annihilating us, or trying to annihilate us, should I say, because we still here. But they were trying to annihilate us. You understand what I'm saying? So obviously we didn't make up any of this American community. Okay? That struggle has often brought pain and violence. It is not yet over. Now, State of Union message of President Lyndon B. Johnson, January 4th, 1965. Wow. January 4th, 1965. Okay. So, that problem is still not yet over. So, in 1965, obviously, they felt plagued all over again with the same problems their ancestors before them had gone through 200 years ago in 1665, right? And then with the war breaking out and everything, they thought that, you know, we finally put the kibosh on that. But, oh, nope. In 1965, we see that it was obviously still a problem. So why were we always just a problem for them? Like, your vessel crashed into our landmass. And then the next thing we know, we at war with all of y'all to save our land. Because y'all don't have a land or a home of your own. Yeah, they were nomads. They had nowhere to go. They had no land of their own. They had no home of their own. And of course, since they were trying to escape the tyranny that they were being held under in their homeland, in their motherland, naturally, they didn't want to go back there. They couldn't go back there, right? So, we've always posed a problem for these people. And why is it that they have always deemed themselves our redeemers? Always deemed themselves our redeemers. I mean, we can see stuff like that. See stuff like that in literature like this. If I come right here, we can go, and I'm going to show y'all something real quick. Or as quick as this will let me, as quick as my Kindle will allow me. But look right here, look at this book. The Religious Instructions of the Negro. So let me click right here. Open book. And check this out. They have always deemed themselves to be our Redeemer. Always. What? The first thing I landed on, okay, this is my bookmark, but Christ and love. Wait a minute, I gotta go back because I need to see that part. Yo, yo, excuse me, man, but I be reading a lot of stuff from these people. Oh, I'm telling you, man, these people under the stairs, man. Strange. For real, especially back then. Like, they really had it lodged in their head that, yo, even though we know we ain't got nowhere to go, don't nobody really want us, because they were like the low of the low. They weren't welcomed or wanted by their own homeland, right? Which is how they wound up over here. And the ones that were not sent here, volunteered to come here just so they could get the heck away from them over there. But yet and still you come here, there's people here, families here, men, women, old and young, and children, babies, and still you have no compassion, none at all. And then you have the nerve to write books like this, The Religious Instruction of the Negro. Now this is in 1842, so this is even before Emancipation Proclamation, okay? This is before the Civil War, all of that, okay? and yeah, this is this is the crap that they were doing. You know what I'm saying? What it say? 1673, Mr. Baxter published his Christian Dictionary, in which he has a chapter of directions to those masters in foreign plantations who have Negroes and other slaves, being a solution of several cases about them. Okay, so blah blah blah. Remember that they have immortal souls and are equally capable of salvation with yourselves, and therefore you have no power to do anything which shall hinder their salvation. Now who's this guy? Because they did all of that. Remember that God is their absolute owner? Shit. No such a thing. They ain't remember none of that. They ain't hear none of that. And that you have none but a derived and limited propriety in them. They straight out said they owned us. So, Mr. Baxter, I don't think nobody was listening to you. Okay, but look right here. So serve your necessities by your slaves as to prefer God's interests and their spiritual and everlasting happiness. Teach them the way to heaven and do. So what the hell was we doing before y'all came along? This is the question that I always ask, yo. Like, what was we doing before y'all came along? You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all act, like, it kills me how they act like we needed them to have a union with God. How could that be possible if the very book, the very doctrine that but then you see, they don't serve that doctrine. They don't really serve that doctrine. That doctrine is just a code book for them to speak to each other. They don't serve the God of that doctrine. Okay? And when I say they, I'm not speaking about you, Mary up the block. I'm not even talking about you, Karen. Okay? I'm not talking about you, Brad, down the street. I'm not talking about Bob, Billy around the corner, you know what I mean, Jeremy or whatever. If you live around where I live, I ain't talking about you. You have no power. You have no power. Okay, I'm talking about those in power. Those that make the rules and break the rules. And, change the rules and contort the rules and do whatever they want to do with the rules. Create the whole game. Created this whole game. This whole board game known as Monopoly. Okay? Pay attention. That's what it's all about. Monopoly and chess. That's it, baby. Those are the only 2 board games you need to know ever. Okay? But anyway, I digress. Getting back to what I'm saying, so you see, this is what I mean, like, who y'all think we was dealing with before y'all came along? You understand what I'm saying? We've always had love for our family members. We've always had love for our children. We've always had love for our elders, our parents, grandparents. We've always had love. And we've always known God. We've always had a relationship with God, the Most High. You understand what I'm saying? We've always had a relationship with the Most High. And if that were not so, in that very same doctrine, where it starts off saying, come let us create man out of our image, we know right now from receipts who that first man was. And I don't say that for bragging rights. I'm speaking scientifically here. I'm speaking scientifically here. I don't care. I see these new reports that pop up in my news feed on my phone. You understand what I'm saying? And talking about how now they discovered something that's going to rock and change the humanity, and how this is going to change the whole course of where humanity began. I just saw something like that pop up in my news feed the other day. Like, so now y'all want to come and y'all want to try to change up the whole story. Come on, man. It's a little too late for that. Like, we already know. We already know. It's written everywhere. It's inscribed in every cave. Every cave that you've ever entered, every bone that you've ever dug up, the deeper you go, the blacker it gets. And like I said, I don't say that to be racist, okay? Because I'm not in the race against no one. So therefore, I am not a racist, okay? In the true sense of what the word racist means, I ain't in competition with nobody. Okay, I do what I gotta do. I do me. I do me. I don't need to be in competitions with nobody. I don't need to sit at your lunch counters. I don't need to live in your cul-de-sacs. I don't need to send my baby to your school where my baby may be made to feel uncomfortable and ridiculed all day, and still not be given your education. Okay, Neely Fuller taught us that. He pulled out coattail to that. Okay, two separate different educations going on. Okay, so yeah, you know, but this is what I'm saying, man. They always thought that they were some type of authority figure on us.
Smash that like button.
If you don't take this ass whipping